working with Maisie, who was only 13 years old at the time. It was her very first job. She had never done any professional acting before. And doing that very first scene, we shot that very, very early on. One of the very first things that we shot at all for Game of Thrones was that first scene. And I remember that Dan and David were the creators of the show. They said, it doesn't matter how long it takes to make this scene. It was about 3.5 minutes long. We were going to get it right. I think we spent nearly 3 days filming that scene. Me and Maisie, we made sure that we didn't use our stunt doubles. I have a background as a dancer, and Maisie was doing contemporary dance at school at the time. So learning choreography was not a problem for us. So we were very proud of that scene.
Who are you?
Your dancing master, Syrio Forel.
I was in London for 2 weeks, and I worked with her stunt double. And we cooked up the vocabulary of what the style was going to be. We had an idea of what the movement was going to be. Not completely locked down, but enough to understand what we would do. And then I went to Northern Ireland and I taught Maisie what I'd learned.
Yeah.
And she picked it up very quickly. I spent 2 weeks learning it. She did it in 2 days. They had to write another scene between Arya and Syrio because 2 scenes wouldn't make it the relationship concrete enough. The characters that start the hero's journey, and for Arya Stark, he's the guy that creates the starting point for her story. And because he sacrifices his life for her, this girl he barely knows. And because there aren't very many honourable men or women in Game of Thrones, I think he became someone that people felt very attached to. We all like the badass, excellent teachers who can kick ass.
What do we say to the god of death?
Not today.
Every fan knows that if you don't die on screen, you are not there at all. So.
Well, I think because I asked George why he didn't write it, why he didn't write a good death scene, and he said because that wasn't my intention. And he didn't explain it any further than that. He said, you know, what I wanted was to make it ambiguous because, and this is what I believe, because he never said this, but this is what I think, is that for Arya Stark, if she'd witnessed his death, Syrio Forel's death, it would have, the trauma would change the way that she remembers him. And in the books, she always quotes his lines. She always quotes the mantra over and over again. It keeps her going when she's feeling very vulnerable, when she needs more motivation. So for me, I think as a storytelling narrative device, when you leave it ambiguous, what happens is that the character stays alive in her head. Because you don't know, it means the character stays alive. And she needs the character to stay alive in her head because her lessons aren't over. It's like Star Wars and having a Force ghost. You have to have Obi-Wan Kenobi telling Luke, use the Force, Luke. You know, trust in the Force. You have to have him say that because he's not yet a Jedi.